Turn off your lights. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Things are about to get spooky. My wife refuses to let me turn on the heating or let me warm up the house. She is trying to cut back on our electric bill. I try my best to not look at her manic expression as she stands in front of the fire, desperately trying to warm up our infant son's cold blue corpse. Why do you always see so many live squirrels and almost never a dead one? I asked my daughter.
They get eaten too quickly,
she replied, licking her fingers. Every night at 3 a.m., an unknown caller calls my phone. Finally, deciding to answer, I shouted a brief, "What's your problem?" but quickly froze when I heard a distant echo of my own voice. After many years, I was finally able to see my wife and kids through the pearly gates. "I'm sorry, son. How you chose to get here only leads one direction," as St. Peter led me away. My wife was my main caretaker. I would never have imagined she would pass away before I did. As I stared at her lifeless body, realizing the phone was out of reach, I remember the doctor's words when he warned me that being obese and bedbound would be a dangerous situation. Vampires always accumulate such a vast wealth for one good reason. They don't need permission to enter a property when they own the land upon which it sits. 100 feet underwater and deep into the cave system, you shine your light across a chamber never seen by human eyes as you glide effortlessly through the flooded tunnels. As the O2 indicator on your wrist beeps that it's time for the mile-long swim back to the cave's entrance, you realize in rising panic that your dive light is growing dimmer and dimmer.
Mommy said to call 911 if she is ever hurt. But I hung up when someone answered because Mommy also said to never talk to strangers.
The girl looked up at me from her hospital bed and said, "Thank you for saving me, doctor. I don't want to die anymore." My stomach sank with the news I had to come to bring her. She had taken too much, and now there was nothing anyone could do to save her from dying slowly over the next few days, while her organs shut down from the poison. My wife has become so agreeable after returning from this luxury mental health retreat. My only concern is that sometimes she freezes and says some nonsense about a successful firmware update. Mom always thought I had the wildest imagination when I talked about hearing robot noises in the woods as a child. It wasn't until my picture was found amongst the countless other Polaroid screenshots of missing children that I realized the unassuming clicks, whoosh sounds that followed me through the trees had been. My teacher laughed when we all yelled the same number after asking us to say a random number. But she was in tears for some reason after we did it 9 times in a row. "Be seated," the chief surgeon shouted. "You've missed a full week of classes." The girl tried not to faint as the second-year student dissected her mother's corpse. She had not been told her body would be donated to medical science. I've been waiting for 30 minutes in traffic, yet the cars haven't moved a single inch. It was only when I glanced at the sidewalk only to realize the cars aren't the only ones that haven't been moving. There was a serial killer on the loose, and as a slim brunette with freckles, I fit the reported physical preference to the T. When the girl who matched my appearance weighed me down for a ride, we chuckled about being a safe bet because we both perfectly matched the criteria, but she didn't notice until it was too late that my freckles were drawn on. I was called by my son's principal to come to the school because he told his teacher she was going to die. I didn't know she stumbled into the parking lot right as I pulled in. My name is Mandy. I'm 17 years old. I'm captain of the cheer squad, and my boyfriend is the football quarterback. I don't know why the doctors grimaced when they heard my answers, or the gray-haired lady who looked sort of like my mom started crying. But the chubby nerd loser guy who kept trying to hold my hand looked like I stabbed him in the guts. I finally faced my accuser after being acquitted and released from prison after 20 years. My accuser, who was now an elderly white lady, said to me, "Honey, I'm so sorry for falsely accusing you. And I knew you were innocent, but you fit the description because you're black." The boy ran into the forest cave to hide from the local bullies who were chasing him. As soon as the bullies entered the cave, they heard the boy shout, "They're all in," and the cave entrance suddenly closed. As a 6-year-old, I always thought I had my whole life ahead of me. But as I lay in my bed, getting sicker and weaker, eating nothing but my mom's homemade soup, I realized I was just lucky to have such a doting parent who always took care of me and my weird illnesses. I told my ex's mother that I wanted to reconcile and tricked her into revealing my ex's new address. When I entered the house through the back door, I didn't find my ex, but her mother was there with a shotgun. Your child seems perfectly fine. For an extra fee, we can make modifications like changing her eyes or hair color, things like that, said the doctor to my pregnant wife. How much will it cost to give her an illness that will make her dependent on us for her entire life? My wife asked. They tell me my survival was nothing short of miraculous. Surrounded by rubble where my friends and family and neighbors used to live, I curse the God that makes such cruel miracles. My fingers were raw and bloody, but I kept typing and typing, working endlessly on my 6th novel. The woman behind me kept whispering to me what to write, not letting me stop until her story had been shared with the world. "Are we going to dig coal or something?" asked one of the teenagers after they were told to prepare for mine work. "No, all of you will be walking through a minefield to make a safe passage for the rest of us," replied the village elder. "Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary," the kids taunted her face on the other side of the glass. Pressed against the ruined windshield, Mary pointed at the kids and made her swerve into the light pole, but the EMTs saw nothing. I drove all day through the scorching desert, racing towards the spot where my kidnapper promised I'd find my baby daughter. When I opened the box I found, it only contained a note that read, "She was alive when I put her in the trunk this morning." Understandably, my loving family were a little concerned when I told them I need a routine operation to remove a tiny parasite worm from my brain. After the operation, I regained consciousness in a disposable test tube and discovered that I wasn't quite the person I thought I was. Should I leave my wife after she emotionally cheated? Update. Thanks for all the advice, but after you all highlight that divorce is expensive and can be difficult for young kids to process, it was much simpler to just shoot them both. After what felt like an eternity of monotonously walking across the barren clouds and dying of boredom, I went back to St. Peter and asked if I could leave heaven. With a grin wiped across his face, he asked, "What made you think you were in heaven?" When my nephew showed up at my door unannounced and covered in blood, I asked him what had happened. With unrestrained excitement, he replied, "Remember when you said I could live with you if my parents died?" After killing and burying my wife in the woods on a hike, I told my son she got lost and wasn't coming back. I did not expect to be woken up in the middle of the night by my son telling me that he went into the woods and found her. When I finished plowing the parking lot, I noticed a text from my wife. "Since the kids have a snow day, I'm bringing them to see you at work. We're digging an awesome fort inside one of those snow mountains. Come say hello when you go for lunch." The soldiers told us they were moving the pregnant women to a more secure location to save future generation from the zombie virus. They didn't tell us they had discovered that the fetus becomes immune if a woman gets infected while she's in the third trimester. I let out a sigh of relief as my home came into sight, as I was near exhaustion and couldn't go on much longer. My relief turned to despair when my wheelchair suddenly collapsed beneath me, and I watched as one of the wheels rolled towards the approaching undead horde. Shouldn't you, give me some Novocaine first or something?" I asked nervously, watching the dentist reach for her drill. She looked at me with a stern look as it whirled to life and said, "Anesthesia is for patients who take care of their teeth." The first EMT said, "He's got the right blood type, and he's listed as an organ donor. Worth a shot?" The second nodded grimly and replied, "For the little girl, absolutely. But we'll have to make it look like we tried." My fiancé and I thought it'd be interesting to do one of those genetic tests together, and we were ready for any possibilities of learning about health conditions that might affect our future children, or even being distantly related. Neither one of us was prepared when decades-old unidentified remains were tied to his missing sister, and my father and brother were arrested. At school last week, I shoved that nerdy kid into a locker. They found him this morning because the hallway was starting to smell. With a curt flourish, I signed my name on the dotted line, allowing the rich family to hunt me to my death in exchange for mine being given $10 million. When I was brought to the secluded grounds, the billionaire's son barely looked up from his phone before saying, "I don't want to do this today. Just make the dogs do it." My boss, knowing I intend to kill him, blurted out, "I know this is poisoned. I can smell the almonds." I regarded him with confusion as I pulled out a gun. "I understand you're in tremendous pain, but try to remember that I will spare your daughter's life." Your final words managed to surprise me. With his raw flesh mostly flayed of skin, even to breathe was shivering agony. But between gasps, he managed to wiggle his toes and say, "You missed a spot." I thank God that I never saw Bloody Mary as a teen after foolishly chanting in the mirror.
"Ugly lady,"
my baby blurted out while I was bathing him in the tub, and he pointed past me, causing Mommy's heart rate to increase. With advanced fertility technology, our robots have made parenthood a breeze for married couples, so don't worry about this necessary procedure. Against his will, they put the machine on his lower torso that quickly sliced away the defining parts of his manhood. "Sweetie, I know you want a baby boy, but God wanted you to have a girl instead," the nurse told me. "I told you not to circumcise my baby, and you did anyway," I shouted and lunged at the doctor while the nurse and my husband tried to apprehend me. "I wish I could eat whatever I want without gaining weight," I told the genie. As I desperately shoved fistfuls of food into my mouth with the skeleton hand. Oh, how I wish I had been more specific. The thing that replaced my infant daughter won't stop screaming. As the last bubbles floated from her mouth to the surface, I hoped its death would bring her back. Am I the asshole for telling my boyfriend to quit crying like a baby? His mom isn't coming back, and his tears aren't making her dismemberment go any faster. Despite the years of effort, our AI continually failed the tuning test. As we closed the project, a chat suggested to upload its source code online seemed inconspicuous, until years later, when a patent emerged from its mistakes. I felt my heart sink when he ran over to the group of burly men and told them I was trying to lure him into my car. My last sight before being kicked into unconsciousness was watching the triumphant smile on my stepson's face. My family told me to get over myself and to stop making everything about myself after I discovered my brother having sex with my former fiancé. They keep telling me that their relationship was meant to be, as he went to all the effort to dig her up and doesn't care about her rotting flesh. I found my son crying after he buried his dog. "Next time, before disrespecting me, remember that you have 2 more pets," I said as I walked away. Every year, on the anniversary of our son's disappearance, my husband and I return to the mountain where he was last seen to continue the search. My husband long ago stopped expecting to find anything, but I always take a few minutes to slip away and visit the big tree that he's been buried under. "Are you sure the door can't be opened?" I asked my friend as the intruder kept banging on the other side of the door. "The internet said when the aircraft is pressurized, the door can't be opened due to the high air pressure in the cabin," he replied. The nurse was reassuring me that the MRI would be painless and would find the exact location of my stroke in my brain that robbed me of my speech. Please stop struggling. When the machine started, they would soon find all the location of my hidden body piercings as well. I decided to leave my husband and convinced everyone in our friend group to ghost him. We left him in his hibernation pod, and we took the shuttle to the last known colony as the ship traveled towards the unknown. When we sit near the fireplace in our family mansion, my grandchildren often ask me, how did I manage to escape Unit 731 during World War II? I'm sure telling them a story, but I think it's not necessary for them to know that I was not a patient, but rather a doctor. When my little sister clawed at her throat and gasped for breath, I started Googling frantically. She still persisted after I shoved the Wikipedia page in her face and said, "It says here peanuts aren't nuts, they are legumes." "I know your deal," I told the genie, "and I'm not making any wishes." "Are you sure you never will?" the genie asked as it slowly turned invisible. "Because a few decades of listening is nothing for me." I touched the picture on the wall that showed the family gathering around a golden retriever. After a quick glance around the bodies of the family members I had just killed, I began searching for the still hidden golden retriever. And with that, our time together is coming to an end. As always, I would like to thank the writers who let me read their stories this evening. I hope you enjoyed these stories as well. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, and comment. As well as if you're interested in more shorts, I do have a channel, 242 Read Shorts, which will be in the description box for you guys, if you're interested in that. But as always, thank you for watching. Sleep tight, and don't let 42 bite.